In July, Charlie and I road tripped to a family vacation in the Outer Banks. We left on Wednesday and headed straight to Shenandoah National Park in Virginia. That was an 8.5-hour drive, and when I say we went there, I mean Charlie drove us the entire way there. We stopped in West Virginia and had a quick lunch from home before we got to our cute little hotel right in Luray, Virginia. We headed to bed early that night after a long day of travel before we woke up the next morning and headed straight into Shenandoah National Park. Our first stop was to drive along Skyline Drive because it's known to be so scenic, and instead of looking at any of that scenery, we looked at fog. It was extremely foggy this morning in July and also very humid, so we drove around and took as many pictures as we could before we went on to the Stony Man Trail. We saw deer that were extremely close to us and other hikers. They were not fearful of people at all. I think that's because there's no hunting in national parks and they probably have the run of the place. While we were hiking up this trail, we did cross over with about half a mile of the Appalachian Trail, so I did call my family and let them know I am working to be the family member that has hiked the most miles of the Appalachian Trail. And if you know anything about my family members, that's going to be an impossible title for me to grab. We finally made it to the top of this lookout point and we looked out to nothing. There was a ton of fog there blocking the view. We headed back down the mountain and on to our next hike. We drove through the park to Dark Hallow Falls, which is an extremely popular hike. We saw a ton of people on this one as compared to the Stony Man Trail where we saw only a handful of people when we first started on it. It was very busy, but we did get to see all of the waterfalls and water features as we hiked down and back up again. Shenandoah National Park can also be overlooked, but it was absolutely gorgeous. So it's a place you can really go and enjoy and have some space to yourself as compared to some of these other very busy parks. Charlie and I brought our lunch from home and we had a little picnic in the park before we headed back out and started driving Skyline Drive again. We were finally able to see some of that gorgeous scenery and it was very worth it to stay in the park all day waiting for that fog to lift. Charlie and I headed back to our hotel and headed out for dinner. While we were on our way, a storm siren went off and there was no word online that I could find that it was a test, but no storms came, so ultimately we were fine. We went to a restaurant called the Asian Station in Luray, Virginia, and had some of the best food I've ever had in a national park town ever in my life. On the way home, Charlie stopped to take this picture of me in front of the sunflowers. We went inside and headed to bed early. Our next stop on this road trip is Lancaster, Virginia.